When it comes to Ragnarok, rat holes are everywhere, so we proudly present top 10 insane rat holes on Ragnarok Ascended. First up, coming at number 10, this can be found at 44.0 latitude and 18.9 longitude, then there it is on the map. Now this first one can be found over here in the swamp. Sorry for the lighting, I don't know what was going on. I tried to apply some different kind of settings and it just looks like garbage. But yeah, anyways, this is your first rat hole, and there's actually technically two different entrances, but the other entrance is a little bit hard to get into. But yeah, here's your entrance. So it enters kind of into the castle walls. I have no clue how they didn't see this when making this map, but I guess they just kind of forgot about it. But yeah, so this isn't really like a wide area, but it's just very long. So there's just a bunch of just long little rooms for you to build in. You can fit indie forges in here as well, but replicators are not really able to be fit. There's like a little room in here that you can fit it in. But yeah, it keeps going straight in here. There's your other little entrance, but you really can't get into that one. But yeah, it does keep going right underneath here and above. I did not check out underneath, but I just checked out up here and above, and you do have a good amount of room. It's a little tricky to build in, so I mean, you're gonna have to build kind of really spaced out. So if you're up for that, it's definitely an interesting rat hole, I'll just say that. And next, coming at number 9, this can be found at 74.8 latitude and 96.0 longitude, and then there it is on the map. Now this one can be found underwater and pretty close to the surface as well, but if you just look right over here, you'll find this little tiny entrance. Well, it's more than a little tiny entrance, but it's not, you know, the biggest. It's hard to fit a dino in here. Now this is one of the kind of decent ones on this list. Everything else is much better, just to let you guys know. But yeah, this one does have a decent amount of room. It's just pretty difficult to defend that entrance. So yeah, I'll just kind of skip over this one. This video is sponsored by Mitra 9. Mitra 9 is a non-alcoholic supplement that quite literally makes you feel good. These drinks give you a high, but without the impairment. They have a ton of great flavors, my favorite being root beer. If you're looking for a new drink to replace your coffee in the morning, Mitra is the way to go. Simply go to mitra9.com and use my code OUTCAST for 25% off your entire order. Now, back to the video. Coming in number 8, this can be found at 22.3 latitude and 69.6 longitude, and this one's pretty easy to spot. You don't really need coordinates for this one, as it's at this desert temple. Now this entrance is a bit of an interesting one, and you have to use a Pelagornis to get in here. That's the only way to get in here, but it is a super easy Pelagornis entrance. Once he's tossed out, it takes a couple tries. He'll literally fly straight into the entrance, and you can just ride him pretty much instantly. So you're not having to try to sit there and fight him back and forth. It's a very simple entrance. I did kind of mess up here. I accidentally jumped off and kind of was freaking out a little bit. But yeah, so here is the size of this area. Now this is your first kind of little entrance, which is not, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little hard to defend. However, you cannot fit any dinos in that entrance. So if you spam the crap out of it with turrets, people just cannot get in. It's just too complicated. Now the only way up is over here, so you also have to battle that if somebody's trying to raid you as well. And then it does kind of go under here. Now I would be careful, because on official, this would 100% would be like a considered mesh spot, and you will get banned for this. So do be careful, but if you're on unofficial, I would just check with your admins first to make sure. But yeah, this is your second room right here. It does keep going for quite a bit. So this is the first side. Now this is the hardest part, is getting in here. It is possible. I had to ghost through it, but you can use a Pelagornis in here as well. And if you keep going over here, it opens up into this pretty big, massive room. And then it also kind of just keeps going around with just little kind of crevices, but nothing else too crazy. Still a pretty phenomenal rat hole. Coming at number 7, this can be found at 78.1 latitude and 24.4 longitude. Then there it is on the map. Now we're going to start getting into the much better rat holes here soon, starting with this one. Now this is another underwater rat hole. There's the area around, and the entrance can be found right here. Now this entrance is a little kind of awkward because it technically has two different kind of entrances, but they're in the same spot, as you can see there. But here's your first room. Now this first room is absolutely massive. Actually, never mind. This is the only room, I think. I don't know. I completely forget about this one. But either way, this first room is just kind of enormous. You have tons of room to work with. It is insanely flat. I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's flat underwater. Okay, yeah, so there is a second room. There's your second room right. Not as big, but still nice to have. So you can kind of make your second room, your first room as like a base defense area, have like a turret wall, or just spam a crap load of turrets in there. Coming in number 6, this can be found at 5.8 latitude and 57.8 longitude. And this is another pretty big underwater one. And this one can be found right here next to these little, wyvern pillars. Pretty easy to spot. You can see it's pretty much directly in the corner right here. Now this entrance is a little tricky to get in, but it is possible to do with the character pretty easily. And then this is your first room, nothing too wild. But if you come around this corner right here, Oops, not that corner. My bad, I forget which corner that it was. This corner, that's it. Then it opens up into a decent sized area. So it is pretty long, and then here's your main room. Yes, it's not one of the biggest ones on this list, but considering that it's underwater and with those really tight areas, you cannot get any dinos back here at all. So if you can figure out how to defend it, it would make for, again, a pretty phenomenal rat hole. Coming at number 5, this can be found at 35.9 latitude and 49.5 longitude, and this can be found right here on this double little waterfall area in the canyons, technically 4 waterfalls, but it can be found on the on the top of the second waterfall. Now this one you will 100% be getting banned for if you do build in here, because it's nearly impossible to even get in here, and you have to use a Pelagornis again for this. Now this is again very tricky to do. I couldn't even get my Pelagornis to kind of function properly because there's a little ledge that he got stuck on right here. It's definitely one of the hardest rat holes to do, like I will not lie, but once you're in, this thing is absolutely enormous. So yeah, I just kind of gave up on this and just ghosted straight through because he just would not listen. But once you're in, this is your first room right here. Now this is a bit of a little water area, so it is a little tricky to kind of work with that. But when you come around this little area, it turns just into a land area and the water does stop. Now this is your first room. This first room is, you know, it's okay. It's a decent spot. It's not bad. But I mean, this alone is still a pretty overpowered area. But it actually does keep going, which I'll show you here in a second. But I'm just gonna show you, all the rest of this first area. So as you can see right here, doesn't really go too far more to the left. I was trying to look for some other rooms, but there could be another room hidden in here that I just couldn't find. I'm not sure. But yeah, here's your second room. So instead of going down, you come right over here. And this is tricky to get into, but if you can get into it, maybe with some like vacuum compartments, then it's pretty simple. Now this is your second room. Now you have this first area right here, which does have a little water source down there. And then over here is your second like big room. So yeah, it honestly is a pretty overpowered rat hole. If you can figure out how to defend it, even with like 20 heavies, it's literally impossible to raid this. Coming at number 4, this can be found at 38.5 latitude and 31.3 longitude, and then there it is on the map. Now this one can be found over in the canyons, and this one can be found kind of close to that little bridge area right there. I did feature this one in one of my last videos, but it's just such an incredible rat hole, I had to just toss it in here because, it's top 10 insane. This is pretty insane. Now this area is pretty massive, so it is a stretch wall, which means it will 100% be getting patched, but it will probably take ARK a couple months to patch it. So if you're seeing this video, you still have about a month and a half just to kind of build in it. So if you're just looking for like a quick wipe, it does make for a good one. And you do have a lot of room to work with in here. Now this is your big first room. You do have some platforms in here as well, which makes it even easier to just live in here and function. Now you do have a water source down here as well. But if you come back up, there is a second area in here, technically like 3 different rooms, but they're all kind of awkward and just too skinny. But yeah, here's your other area up here. It's flat, and it's just honestly just amazing for a base to fit in here. Coming at number 3, this can be found at 38.9 latitude and 45.6 longitude, and this one can also be found in the canyons. Now this is a different part of the canyons. It is pretty centralized to this area with the artifact in the middle. Now this one is pretty hard to get into, but I mean it's more of just a crouch entrance. But this is the tricky one right here. So this first area you're able to get into, but this area right here that I just passed is very hard to do without a vacuum compartment. I don't even think it's possible. So highly recommend getting a vacuum chamber to just get in here. Now this is your first room, which is already a pretty giant overpowered area. You have a lot of room to fit everything pretty comfortably. You're gonna have to build on multiple layers, but here's your second room. You're gonna need a Pelagornis or a vacuum compartment for this as well. And the second room is much bigger. Now you have a little bit of a glitch going on with some water down here, but it does kind of stop when you get down. And yeah, this is your second room, which is even bigger than the first room. Now there is another area in here that gets you into the main central part of the pillar, and that is an absolutely massive room, but I was not able to find it in this video. But yeah, if you guys can find that other entrance, it is just insane. Coming at number 2, this can be found at 5.6 latitude and 59.6 longitude, and this is another underwater one. Now this is one of the most overpowered, probably underwater spots on this list, as you need some kind of Pelagornis just to get in here. Now here's your entrance right here, which is too skinny for a player to fit. As you can see here, I tried, and I could only get it down about that far. But with the Pelagornis, it is still possible, and even then it's kind of tricky. Now when you first enter, this is your first room right here. It is pretty flat, decent size, and I'm just gonna be honest, it's just insanely overpowered right here. Then when you come down here, it opens up into a second room, which is a good amount bigger, and just a lot more room as well. So if these 2 rooms weren't enough, I mean, you have that insane entrance, which is pretty much impossible to raid this thing. And finally, coming at number 1, this can be found at 21.7 latitude and 23.7 longitude. And this one can be found over in that kind of awkward cave in jungles, right by Blue Ob. I'll show you the entrance. There's the entrance. A lot of you guys should know what that is. Now, if you come right over here and follow my exact path, it is tricky to find, so just do it a couple times. But you'll find this area right here. Now this entrance is extremely tiny, but you can fit a player in here, so you do not need a Pelagornis for this one, which does make it pretty comfortable to just work with and build in. But here is your main room. Now this thing is pretty massive, and in my opinion is one of the, it's at least one of my favorite ones on this list, because you can just defend the exterior so easily by just spamming turrets, because it's built in a little like hidden grotto area. Now this does make for a pretty great rat hole. But yeah, anyways, that's it for today's video. Hope you guys did enjoy. Don't forget to leave a like if you're new and hit that subscribe button. We are so close to 100K. It would mean the world to me if you guys could subscribe. But anyways, thanks for watching.